Nintendo has been gatekeeping new leaves fruit trees from us, and here is how I plan to get them back for Animal Crossing 6. In our concept video today, we are adding onto New Horizons 6 default trees to include all the new leaf fruit, and on top of that, I've made a way to obtain around 50 fruit variants in the game that will have you going bananas. We will also explore how fertilizer could help produce variants in color for crops, and how your trees in town could rise to new heights. This is the Nintendidn't, So We Did podcast. Hello everyone, my name is Super Koopa and welcome back to episode 6 of the Nintendidn't, So We Did podcast. I am your host today, and I am super excited to be talking once again about my mega document with my fully conceptualized plan for Animal Crossing 6 for the Switch 2 that I like to call Small Town Big City. I'm glad you're here today. Nintendo better be taking notes, guys, because some of my ideas are crazy and really applicable today when we're talking about the flora of Animal Crossing, basically plants and trees. We're about to go through 10 categories of discussion today, but if you want to watch a previous video about Animal Crossing and this game that I have conceptualized, some of the changes that I would make to Animal Crossing and all that, then make sure to start the journey with the first video right now, and then also subscribe for more Animal Crossing Small Town Big City content. All right, let's get into the meat of the video, and that is the 10 categories that we're going to be talking about today. And if you guys want to access this document, you're welcome to click on the link in our description of this video of this podcast, where you can access this fully fleshed out document to check out for yourself. Not everything in this video is going to be covered, so make sure you check that out. All right, here's the Flora section. This is flowers, bushes, trees, and crops. We're going to be covering the topics of flowers, other miscellaneous plants, flower baskets, something new to talk about there, bushes, fruit trees, that's going to be a big section right there, grafting trees, the whole way that you use this new Shears item that we're going to talk about, natural trees, crops, seasonal crops, which is also something that's new, and a greenhouse. All right, there's a lot to talk about in this video, so let's start opening the sections and expand them. Let's get going. All right, so I'm gonna kind of rush through the flower section. Flowers have been in Animal Crossing for a very long time. Making hybrids has been around since day one for Animal Crossing, and so we don't need to belabor that point over and over again when it comes to flowers. But what I will say is that we're going to be bringing a lot of new flowers back, and flowers actually, when you start the game, there's a bigger variety that you can actually start with when you begin your town. So it's not just the couple, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 flowers that you technically could have in New Horizons. So flowers can actually in this game be picked up like they used to be in every other game except New Horizons. What I disliked about New Horizons flower mechanic is that in order to take off the petals to make DIYs, you could not pick up the whole flowers as a whole. You had to dig them up. I picked off the petals a lot less than I did pick up flowers. So I'd like to actually swap them too. And that's what led me to create a tool called the Shears, which would allow you to shear off a flower instead of when you hit that B button or whatever, you pick up the flower petal automatically. So flowers can be picked up as a whole unit as they could in every game up until New Horizons. Flowers can be sheared for crafting recipes if you still want those flower petals. Some flowers and bushes are actually going to be seasonal and will not pop up in certain seasons, but will pop up in other seasons. The greenhouse will actually help to produce these flowers all year round. More on that later. And then finally, fertilizer is a new item that's going to come into play, especially a little bit later, but with flowers, they will help increase your chance for a hybridized flower to pop up, and those are going to be 3,000 bells a sack. And these are going to come in handy. You got to be really rich in order to get this fertilizer in a lot of quantities to do what you want to do. All right, let's move on to the hybridized flowers list. All right, so some of the flowers that are returning from New Horizons is going to be the carnation, cosmo, hyacinth, mum, pansy, rose, tulip, and windflower. The only other one that was included in New Horizons was also the lily of the valley and dandelion. Those are going to be under the miscellaneous plants if you look at the document. But then I'd like to add some new plant varieties, some new flowers. And part of that is going to be bringing in plants and flowers that were in Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, as well as past games like New Leaf. We actually miss out on the lily and the violet in this game in Animal Crossing New Horizons, so we're going to be bringing those two varieties from New Leaf back. And then here's some of the flowers that I'd like to bring back from Pocket Camp. And these include crocuses, the dahlia, iris, peony, poinsettia, which is like Christmas flower, a star flower, and a sunflower, and then finally a zinnia. And then if you go under miscellaneous plants, we'd like to include the lily of the valley and the dandelion once again. The lily of the valley will appear during the most welcoming state of your town, once you get your town fully leveled up and cleaned out and things, helping your neighbors and all that. Now, we talked about this, I believe, in one of the first podcasts, but the Rafflesia plant is back. And this happens when your town is in the least welcoming state. So when you first start the game, there will be a Rafflesia plant that's just hanging out there, and it's going to take some time for that plant to finally wither and go away. That was in Wild World for sure. I'm pretty sure it was also in City Folk as well. We're bringing back the clover as an item, and you can also get a 4-leaf clover item as well from those. Those are coming back. And then from New Horizons, we're bringing back the moss, weeds, and vines. Vines can now not only grow on the side of the ledges, but you can also find vines growing on houses and building structures as well as trees. And then of course we have the weeds as normal. Now something that's going to be returning is lily pads on the water, including a new item which is a cattail item. These will be able to grow and be plucked from alongside the water. So lily pads are appearing for the first time since Animal Crossing population growing. So I'd like those to be a feature again, that they grow in the water, and then every spring or whatever, a water lily will grow by the lily pad. So I think that's a cool thing that I like to bring back. Let's talk about flower baskets now. This is a user or YouTube commenter suggestion when I had originally talked about stacking flowers, and they said that the reason that you couldn't stack flowers is because the flowers' genomes in the game, which I had no idea was a thing. I just thought that, the reason that you couldn't stack flowers was because they didn't design it that way. However, there's actually a whole science behind it of why flowers cannot be stacked in New Horizons. So without getting into all of those gritty details, yes, we cannot technically stack any flowers, but we've made a way for flowers to now be combined. You can also do this through a drawer mechanic, which I believe we've alluded to, but we'll allude to in the future, but you're able to kind of stack items in that way. I won't go too deep into detail, but yeah, you can check out more about the flower basket and how that would work. Cool. Let's go into the next section, which is all about bushes. Now, bushes is basically the renaming of the shrubs that were in both New Leaf and as well as in New Horizons. Bushes have been around for a little bit. The reason I'm calling them bushes is because a lot of them not only are going to be growing flowers and berries, but also they're going to be, in this game, shearable. So you're actually able to shear the flowers off the bushes as well as the berries off the bushes to make in crafting recipes, baking, or cooking recipes as well. So this is super exciting. Another use for the shears item. So berries can be harvested from bushes for food to make recipes using the shears. Walk up to a bush with the shears in hand, hit the bush, and a berry or flower that is growing will shear off. Bushes do not need to be watered and will always yield a consistent amount of 4 berries or 4 flowers per harvest. Berries or flowers will regrow if the bush is in season in every 3 in-game days. So basically the same thing as a fruit tree. If you shake the tree and fruit comes down, it'll regrow within a 3-day period. So same thing with the bushes. And here's a list of the bushes that will be returning from New Horizons. The returning bushes are azalea, camellia, hibiscus, holly, hydrangea, plumeria, olive, and here are some new bushes that are going to be added to the game, and those are blackberries, blueberries, cloudberries, lilacs, mulberries, raspberries, and strawberries. So there is a bunch of new bushes to get to check out in this game. A lot of them are berry related, and I think that you will find that a lot of those will make great drinks and potentially some great boba in the big city, something to talk about or look ahead if you want to check out the document for the future. All right, going into the next section, section number 5, this is fruit trees. And this is really, really cool. I'm going to show you what we've done here. All right, so if you'll look at this current section that I have pulled up right now in the document, you can see that there is a link here that says see chart with full photos here. So actually, I've made up what is called a hybridization guide that will show you all the fruit trees and crops that you can get. So you can go through that in your own time. It's super cool. I've taken literally, guys, hours and hours and hours to create these graphics and these cool little things. So please, if anything, if you're not even interested in, watching the rest of the video, please check out this document to check out these ideas and show your support. And please leave a like on this video because this did take a very, very long time to develop, but I did it for you. So let's talk about this and go through everything that this will have to offer for us today. All right, let's go back to this for us. So fruit trees, default fruit trees appear in the normal varieties of apple, cherry, pear, peach, and oranges. So these were all previously available in New Horizons. We know this. So these have been around since day one, these fruits. But we've also changed a little bit of something. If you'll notice, the coconut is now a brown coconut. These are going to be appearing on the beach, and these are no longer the skinny, short palm trees anymore. These are going to be tall palm trees that these will be growing on. The other variety and variant will be available. However, they will not be available right in the start of the game. So these cool new brown coconuts will be a default fruit in the game. All right, what else do we got here today? Let's talk about the perfect state of the town. So perfect, having your town be the most welcoming will allow you to grow perfect fruit variants. They will appear randomly. I actually have a guide for exactly how one of these can grow, and you can actually use fertilizer to make one grow as well. So that's something to consider as well. These, while ingested as a food item, they will give you 3 stamina to dig up trees when eaten. So the biggest annoying thing with fruit and how it worked with stamina in Animal Crossing is that it only gave you 1 stamina point every fruit that you ate, and it just took forever to get your max stamina. So in this game, a perfect fruit will actually get you 3 extra power, so you can max up your max stamina very quickly if you wanted to. Now, each tree is going to be a unique shape. As you can tell, that pear tree, it looks a little wonky. It's a little different, so every single default fruit tree will have its own unique shape to it, which is super cool, and it's going to resemble a little bit more closely to its real life counterpart. So certain trees will also only bear fruit at certain times of the year. All of your default fruits, those are fine. Your apples, your pears, those will produce year round, and as well as some of those new leaf fruits that we're going to be bringing back, which you'll see in a minute. Now this is something that's very interesting because we've always had hybrid flowers, but hybrid trees are actually going to be possible, and this is how we're going to bring the 50 fruit variations into the game that you're not even going to be able to believe what's about to happen. Now these aren't very easy to do. Trying to create hybrids is not always successful, but by going to Leaf's School of Botany, which is in the big city, you will be able to not only buy the means in order to create these yourself, but he'll also teach you the correct way to do them so that it will be more successful. Let's go through our chart of what we can find here. I'm just going to go through the root main fruits, and then we'll go into some of the cool variants together. So scroll on with me. So we got an apple that's going to have 4 different variations if you merge them with another default fruit. We got cherries, pears, peaches and oranges, and then as you can see there, a brown coconut, having available the green coconut that was available before, as well as pineapples. And then we're bringing back the fruit from New Leaf, which is a banana. This was one that I missed a lot. It just makes sense, like, why didn't we bring it back New Horizons? But the banana will be available. We're also bringing the lemon into the game, which will also be able to grow a lime and some other variations as well. Now, a brand new item that can be grown on a tree is a cacao fruit or a cacao seed. And then also you can hybridize that to create a coffee berry, which allows you to create coffee drinks as well. So this is a super cool new addition. I think whoever voted on the poll for new fruit in the game, I think cacao is a big fan favorite as well. And then we're bringing back from New Leaf once again the persimmons. Those were pretty cool. They almost look like a tomato growing on a tree. So we're bringing back persimmons. And then we're bringing back from Animal Crossing Pocket Camp the grapes. So they actually had grapes in those games, and I had no idea that that was even a thing until more recently when I was doing my research for this video. But we're bringing back 2 varieties of grapes, and then the mango is also back from New Leaf. Now there are some cool variations of the next few fruits. These are all New Leaf fruits. We got the lychee or lychee, depending on how you say it, and then the durian fruit. These can all be hybridized into brand new fruits like guava, passion fruit, and papaya. These will be very popular with big city drinks and smoothies, so that's going to be super cool. And then we're moving on to some kiwi fruit, and the kiwi is only available, as you can see, these all have specific times a year, unless it's specified that these will grow. So a kiwi will only grow from October to May, and then there is a specific fruit that can only be grown through December and February, and that is the star fruit. This is going to be the hardest fruit to get in the game, the star fruit. But once you have it on your tree, it's gonna look absolutely gorgeous. And the reason that I made it for December through February is so that during Christmas time, if you have a town full of star fruit, you can have star trees, similar to star fragment trees. This time they're actually just a fruit. So as you can see here, there is a ton of new fruits to explore here in small town, big city. I hope that that is something that absolutely excites you and gets you hyped up for everything that that game could be. There's also some brand new things that we're bringing as well in the terms of grafting. So this is how you create a hybrid tree, and that's through grafting. This is number 6 on our list here. So something important to know that is the term, what the term grafting or graft means. So that's basically to take a part of a tree and combine and basically create a graft of a tree to regrow a tree. However, the term hybrid, that's important to know too, because that's when people take 2 grafts of a tree or a fruit and they combine them into one, and then through time, it creates this new, brand new variation of a fruit. So that's kind of what we are looking into here. Here's some facts about grafting and hybrids. Hybrids will never be selected as your native tree. Like I said, it's going to be the 5 typical fruits: the apple, the cherry, the pear, the peach, and the orange. That's the only one that can be in your default town when you start up the game. No hybrids will be available for that. Default town fruit trees, like I was just describing, can be grafted all into one another to create hybrids using shears. So you don't have to go to the city and get all these new fruits in order to make hybrids. You can start right away with the fruit that you have in your own town. So that's pretty cool. And they can all hybridize into each other as well, or be used for other hybrids as well. Shearing a tree with no stamina, so if you haven't eaten a food, will shear off 1 fruit at a time. So you can actually make it so that your trees only have 2 fruits or 1 fruit at one time, just by shearing a tree by walking up to it. But if you do have a stamina point, then if you walk up to a tree and shear it, what will happen is it will pop out what is called a graft. And this is handled in a very similar way to a sapling. You're probably pretty familiar with the saplings from previous games, but saplings are just things that you can use to grow trees. So a graft in addition to a sapling, will also be a way that you can plant trees in the ground and reproduce trees from trees that you have in your town already. And then once again, fertilizer has a very big role. This can actually increase your chance for a hybrid tree to grow. So here's how it happens. How to graft a hybrid tree. What you'll need is your Shears item, one food item. That's how you get the stamina points, or multiple, depending on how many you want to create. Fertilizer, I mean, this is pretty necessary for most of them. You're going to have a pretty low success rate if you don't have fertilizer. And then you're going to need 2 different shoots. So let's just say for this scenario, we want to create a green apple. So the way that we create a green apple is by grafting together an apple and a pear fruit. And then when they combine, you have a 25% chance that you're going to get the same fruit. So basically you could get another pear or another apple. You know, that might happen. You might get one of the same fruits. It was unsuccessful, but at least you didn't lose out. Now another 25%, you have a chance of getting absolutely nothing. It's going to grow a tree, but there's going to be no fruit on it. So those are pretty big chunks of percentages. 50% of them will not grow a hybrid, but the other 50% can grow a hybrid. So they're not impossible without fertilizer, but if you add fertilizer to this, what you're actually looking at is about a 75% chance of growing a hybrid tree rather than nothing or just one of the same fruits again. So using that fertilizer, you can only use it once by burying it in a hole and then creating your graft right there in the hole. So that's kind of how that all works. If you have another graft, let's say we already have the pear graft and we're trying to make a green apple. So what we're going to do is we're going to take both items and we're going to combine them in our inventory. So you're going to take the apple, you're going to take the pear, and then you're going to drag one over it, and then it's going to combine into one new graft. Now, once you have that graft, you're going to want to put the fertilizer down. That's going to be your next step. So dig a hole, bury fertilizer into it to increase your chance of a hybridization. And then you actually have to wait 4 days for the tree to grow to see what you're going to get. So there's going to be a little bit of a waiting game. If you are successful, what you're going to have is a brand new tree. Hopefully what you got was a green apple. Maybe you got an apple, maybe you got a pear, maybe you got nothing. But chances are, if you fertilize it, you got a 75% chance that you're gonna get something really good and get that green apple. So I think that's a really cool concept. Once again, check out the document for the success rates. This is where you can basically figure out how fertilizer or how certain fruits will grow and the percentages that it will take for them to grow here. So let's go into the next part here, which is part number 7. And this is talking about the changes that I would make to the natural trees that you find within your town. Let's go. So I wanted to bring the document back into it because I just want you to see all the time that I put into all of these graphics here. I created a different variety of trees. I've changed some of them and I've changed how they work too. So let's go through this. Trees will now take on a taller appearance while pine trees will take on more of a stout appearance. So in the past they both were roughly the same size, as well as the palm trees. They were all pretty uniform, but in this game there's going to be a lot more variety. You're going to be living in a small town. It's a forest setting, so we want there to be different sized trees, not just like you plant a tree and then there's a different growth cycle. Like these will actually be taller sizes than they were before. Using shears, once again, you can harvest one fruit or special item on a tree at a time. So trees will now also grow ornaments, and they will also grow pine cones or acorns as well. So we're able to see those items on the trees, not just shaking them for them to come down. There will actually be a set amount per day, and it takes a 3-day cycle for those to regrow, similar to fruit. Resources now match the corresponding trees. So if you want, however, there's going to be a lot more wood variants to explore. So let's go into some of those together, shall we? Okay, number 1, we have the maple tree. This is your default Animal Crossing tree. It looks the same, only as you can tell, it's a little bit taller than it was before from the picture that we have here. So we have the normal wood tree. We have the hardwood and the softwood. These are tree types that already exist in the game, so we don't have to necessarily change that. What we have in the game works. And then we also have the pine tree. I'm pretty sure that's a rename from what it was called, but here in the States we call it a pine tree, so that's what I'm going to call it here. Now we're going to have 3 variations of pine, so they're not just going to drop normal, hard, or soft wood. These are actually going to drop a variant of wood of their own, which include hard pine, cone pine, and festive pine. But now we have an oak tree. This is a brand new type as well. This is going to be bringing 3 new types of things to collect. Acorns are one of them. It's going to kind of work in the same way with acorns. Acorn's going to grow, and then if you hit the tree with an axe, another acorn's going to fall when it's acorn season. However, we have 2 new wood variants, the soft oak and the white oak. So white oak is going to be a brand new wood variant for us that we've never seen before, and we'll be able to craft and create new white wood variants of some different things. So we didn't end up bringing birch as a tree into the game. It's just not one that I'd like to add at this point, but we could add it in the future. But I think that an oak tree would be a great one because we already have acorns, and acorns grow on oak trees. So, but we get a new wood variant out of it, so that's pretty cool. And then next off, we have an image of our new palm tree. It is a tall palm, and then we also have the short palm, which is what we've already seen in Animal Crossing in the past. Looks exactly the same height, same everything, and those will grow the different coconut variants, like the green, the yellow, and I believe the pineapple as well. And then for the brown default trees, for the brown coconuts, those are going to be the tall palms like you see there. And you can also just have a tall palm tree that does not even grow coconuts itself as well, similar to how some trees are just normal and some trees actually are fruit trees. So pretty cool there. All right, we also have a dead tree. This is something that was not available in New Horizons, but was available in New Leaf. So I'd like to bring the dead tree variant back. That's when you shook a tree too many times and the leaves all fell off. Also, when a windstorm happens, this is what we talked about in the last video. Make sure you check out the card on the screen right now for that, because it's a really cool concept of having a windstorm come through the town late fall, kind of almost around this time of the year for me in late November. And when you shake that tree, or when the wind comes, it will blow the leaves off the tree, and then for the winter you have a bunch of dead bare trees. You have the option of cutting them down and starting fresh, or you can wait for them to regrow in the spring. We also have a couple other types as well. We have a money tree. We can still grow those in the game. Bamboo is returning. We have the fallen tree. This happens when a tree falls down because of a windstorm, or there's already going to be a bunch of fallen trees as debris in your town when you first start the game as well. So you can experience fallen trees. It's basically those dead trees, but they are fallen logs on the ground. And then finally, the stumps are returning, as well as a ton of different patterns. We saw some of those in New Horizons, but there were a ton more in New Leaf, and I like to create some more patterns that can happen at random in this game as well. Okay, we are going to move on to one of our final categories here, which is going to be crops. There's 3 categories in this section, and the first one is crops. New crops / ingredients will appear, including many returning ones that can contribute to cooking and baking recipes. You can buy starts from Reggie at the Hole in the Wall restaurant. That's a new restaurant that we talked about. If you're interested in hearing more about that, I can put a thing up on screen right now as well for you to check out that video on different town square buildings, including this new Hole in the Wall restaurant that I think would be super cool. But this is where you can buy all the default crops like tomatoes and sugarcane, like what you could buy in Animal Crossing New Horizons. As starts, or you can also go to Leaf's Botany School in the big city to pick up some of these things. In addition to watering for more crop yield, that's still the same. Fertilizer also plays a role in crops as well. It can be bought in the big city and will now determine your crop's color variation. So when you fertilize a crop, you put it in the hole and you bury a start. You are able to, at random, get a color variation, and it will continue to grow as that color from that point on. So there's some pretty cool new color variations I'd like to share with you, not only just for pumpkins, but for every default crop, and I'm so excited to share this. So also you can purchase specific seasonal seeds from the big city as well. These will give you a default crop unless you use fertilizer, and if you do, you have a chance of getting 2 other variations of a summer seeded crop. More on those in a minute. Default crops can be purchased in quantities of 1s or 5s or bought as fully grown crops at the hole-in-wall restaurant. So if you really want some fruit or you really want some crops, you can just go to the restaurant. He's selling tomatoes. He's selling sugarcane just so that you can create some recipes. But why not grow it yourself? First crop on the list. Let's go through these together. All right, number 1 is the turnip. This can only be bought at the stock market, which is where you will be able to visit Joan and trade your stocks. But also this is where you do your turnip selling. This is going to be available in the big city. So there is our normal white variation. This is sold in the hundreds, and this is available all year, as well as your typical red variation. It's a single one that you grow on the ground, and over time it grows in value, and you're able to do that as well. Okay. Guess what else we have? We have some new variants as well. We have the yellow, golden, beet red, and purple variants. These turnips will only be sold within the respective season at the stock market. So you can buy yellow turnips in the spring, golden turnips in the summer, beet red turnips in the fall, and purple turnips in the winter. So I think that's pretty cool. There are some new turnip variations in the game, and these will all be similar in price, but they will only grow within their respective season. Does that make sense? I think so. Let's move on to some new, well, I guess this is more returning. We got pumpkins are back. And these are available in a couple different variants, same as before. Maybe color changes just a little bit to fit more of a pastel theme rather than those deep greens and deep yellows that we had before. But we have the orange, yellow, green, and white. Once again, your default is going to be the orange. If you plant it anytime, it's always going to produce an orange unless you use fertilizer. Now we're adding some new variants into the game. The tomato. We have our normal red tomato, and then if you use fertilizer, you can get green, a cherry tomato, or a yellow tomato. Next up is the wheat, and we have a couple different varieties here. We have our default one, which is what would be in real life a soft red variety. We also have hard red, white, and whole. We have whole wheat that will grow as well, so there are some new variations there when you fertilize. And then we have a brand new default crop here, and that's lettuce. Lettuce can grow all times a year. So we have our normal green lettuce, and then you can also buy purple, you can fertilize for purple, kale, or spinach variations of lettuce as well. And then the potato is back with some new colorations. Our typical brown, we also have yellow, red, and purple, and then sugarcane. We have some new variations as well. When fertilized, yellow, orange, and purple. Now you're probably wondering, Koopa, what did you do with the carrots? Well, they are not taken out of the game. However, I didn't feel like carrots were the most interesting vegetable that we could have in the game. I'd still like them in there, but like thinking about like recipes and like how limited we are with carrots, like what are we gonna make? Carrot cake, a carrot smoothie, like maybe a salad, a couple other things. Not a whole lot to do with carrots. That's why carrots are still going to be available, but they're going to be available as a seasonal crop. Here's how these work. Let me expand this. So in the big city, Leaf can sell seeds that he sells seasonally that can be planted within that season. Using fertilizer, you have a 66% chance to grow one of these variants. It's the same thing with all the other variants. These seeds will take 4 to 6 days to grow. This depends on how much you water them. So these will need to be watered just in a similar way to how when you want more pumpkins, you just water them and they yield more. Same thing with this, only the days that it will take to grow will be determined when it comes to how much you water them. So you can go on every day for 4 days, and on the 4th day, vegetables are gonna pop up instead of on the 6th day. You can purchase these seeds in quantities of 1 or 5 as well. So 1 seed will grow 1 plant in the ground. Let's go through some of these seeds and what's available. New vegetables, new crops in the game. You got your default spring seed, which is the carrot. But we also have available asparagus and peas to grow as well. So you plant the spring seed, it'll pop up as a carrot, but if you use fertilizer, you have that 66% chance of growing an asparagus or pea crop as well. Let's see what else we got here. Let me pull them all up at once. We've got the summer crops. Watermelon are being added to the game, as well as celery and cucumbers. Those are some pretty cool additions there. And then we got the fall crops, which is corn, gourds, and squash. So now we have some really awesome new fall varieties of crops to add to the game. And then finally we have our winter crops, which is broccoli, cauliflower, and garlic. So man, this is a ton of new, like how many new, like this has got to be over 30 new variations of colors and brand new crops. Now just want to put this out there. When it comes to a seasonal crop, there are no color variations. The only variation is the crop that you get from the default seed. So I'm not gonna have different colored squash, different colored cauliflower, different colored cucumbers or watermelon. They're all gonna be their standard color. Maybe in the future that's something that could be expanded, but for now, each of these only hold 1 color just because they are a little bit more of a basic crop. These are kind of being handled how some of the basic crops were in New Horizons. They only have 1 color of tomato, 1 color of potato. There's not multicolors like pumpkins. But I just thought that the default ones would be great to have different color variations, but then these have their only 1 version. It's because they are only a seasonal crop. They're not able to grow year round, so there's not a whole lot of color variation there. Finally, let's talk about the greenhouse and expand this section. So there on your screen right now, you can see a picture of the greenhouse, and let's go into a little bit more of what that greenhouse is gonna look like for the game. So, greenhouse. Now that some flowers, trees, and crops are only able to grow at certain times of the year, the greenhouse is one way to grow these resources while out of season. So basically the point of the greenhouse is to be able to generate these fruits or vegetables or bushes or whatever it is that you need outside of the season. And this is super helpful if you're specifically being asked by a villager for their dream to, I want a piece of corn to create this recipe. Oh man, I have to wait all the way to the fall? No. If I have a fall seed, I can go and plant it in the greenhouse and it will grow to a piece of corn. So just a cool little concept there that I added to the game. Once unlocked, the greenhouse will be placeable as an infrastructure item that is similar to a public works project like a bridge or an incline. However, like most buildings in New Horizons, it can be moved. So flora of all seasons will grow here. You can plant flowers, bushes, trees, and crops in here to grow. You can build it by collecting resources like iron ore, and once it's completed, you can go inside and roam around the flora and freely plant, decorate, and enjoy the greenhouse. So there's a way that you can decorate the walls and stuff and hang stuff off of the walls of your greenhouse. So pretty cool. How much can you fit in here? So the original space is going to be 5 by 3. So what is that? 15 slots that you can do. So you can plant up to 15 different things or have 15 different, like I got a tree here, I got a crop here, I got a flower here. So you can maintain these flowers or you can grow these fruits and vegetables and crops and bushes and all that within the greenhouse. And you first start with 15 spaces. However, you can expand your greenhouses through bells. So ask your current mayor once it's built to expand it to 3 different additions. You could do a 5 by 4, a 6 by 4, and a 6 by 5. That's up to 30 available spaces that you can have. Now keep in mind, when you are expanding the greenhouse, you are expanding the space on the ground in which it's growing bigger. So it's not bigger on the inside, you know, Doctor Who like. When you walk into this is taking up exactly those spaces that are needed for that. And so when it's plopped in your town, you got to be wary about when you make these size increases, that it's going to increase the area around it that it's going to be taking up. So that might restrict some builds. However, I think the practicality of this greenhouse is going to be awesome, especially for fulfilling your villagers' dreams. So that is the greenhouse concept, and we have officially wrapped up all of the Flora updates for Animal Crossing Small Town Big City. Now that's a lot of information. This is about 40 minutes worth of information here. I don't expect you to have gotten to the end, but if you did make it to the end, I just want to say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for your support with this document. Guys, this has taken hours to create and to conceptualize. This stuff none of this was created by AI, by the way. I wanted to reassure you of that. None of the images, they were all just images that I received from the internet rather than images that were created by AI. And none of the trees or anything was created by AI. It was all done by hand by me. When it came to conceptualizing these things and changing the colors, changing how the trees look. This was all done by hand with love to create this video that you are now watching. So I just want to say thank you so much for your support, and I promise to create more content just like this and create more self-made content and not AI generated content for Animal Crossing Small Town Big City going forward. So just know that there's going to be a lot more original art and original drawings and original graphics that are going to be coming up in the future here for these videos. So I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching the Nintendidn't So We Did podcast. In the next video, just as a teaser, we're going to be talking about collecting, and this is where we're going to get to talk about something that I've been dying to talk about, and that is relics. Relics are a collectible item in the game that you dig up, similar to gyroids, and there's going to be a lot of them, and this is how I plan to bring Nintendo items into the game. Just want to thank you once again for watching the Nintendidn't So We Did podcast. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Take care, guys. Bye. This has been the Nintendidn't So We Did podcast. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, or Google Podcast for more on this show.